blast from the past. Remember when you laughed.
Hi there and welcome to Big Kids TV Podcast, the show where we deep dive into the classic kids TV shows we all grew up with. Whether you watched them back in the day or discovering them for the first time, we're here to celebrate the best of children's television. Today we're travelling back to the late 1980s to revisit a forgotten gem, Edward and Friends. This was LEGO's very first TV series, bringing their Fabuland toy line to life in a charming claymation format. If you're a fan of classic stop-motion animation, quirky animal characters, and a touch of British humour, this is one show you'll want to hear about. We'll be talking about the origins of Edward and Friends, the characters, the episodes, and even the books that expanded the world of Fabuland. Plus, we'll talk about the incredible voice cast, which featured none other than the fantastic Bernard Cribbins. So, sit back, relax, and let's head to Fabuland. First things first, what was Edward and Friends? Well, back in the 1980s, LEGO was already one of the biggest toy brands in the world, but they hadn't yet made the leap into television. That changed with Edward and Friends, a 5-minute stop-motion series that ran on BBC Two in the UK from June to December of 1987. It was also broadcast in Canada as well as New Zealand, bringing its unique world to kids across the globe. First things first, what was Edward and Friends? Well, back in the 1980s, LEGO was already one of the biggest toy brands in the world, but they hadn't yet made the leap into television. That all changed with Edward and Friends, a 5-minute stop-motion series that ran on BBC Two in the UK from June to December of 1987. It was also broadcast in Canada as well as New Zealand, bringing its unique world to kids across the globe. The show was created as a tie-in for LEGO's Fabuland theme, a toy line that ran from 1979 to 1989. If you're not familiar, Fabuland was aimed at younger kids and featured animal characters living in a whimsical town. Think of it as a bridge between Duplo and the more advanced LEGO sets. Simpler than traditional LEGO, but a lot more detailed than Duplo. To bring Edward and Friends to life, LEGO teamed up with the legendary British animation studio Filmfare London. Now, Filmfare was responsible for some of the UK's best loved stop motion series, including Paddington Bear, The Wombles, and The Herbs. With their expertise, Edward and Friends had that classic, warm, handcrafted feel that made it so endearing. The show was written by Michael Cole, who had previously worked on Postman Pat, and the music was composed by Mike Batt, the genius behind the Wombles theme song. But perhaps the biggest highlight of the show was its narrator, Bernard Cribbins. Cribbins was a national treasure in the UK, known for his work on Jackanory, The Railway Children, and later people remember him for Doctor Who. His warm, engaging storytelling was the perfect fit for Fabuland's gentle and humorous tone. Now, at the heart of the show was Edward Elephant, a kind but curious elephant who always found himself in little adventures around Fabuland. But don't worry, he wasn't alone. Bonnie Bunny was a sweet and friendly rabbit who was always eager to help, while Max Mouse, a mischievous little mouse, often found himself in trouble. Clive Crocodile, the town's handyman, had a habit of making things a little more complicated than they really needed to be. Leading the town was Lionel Lion, the mayor of Fabuland, who loved hosting events and keeping things running smoothly. Hannah Hippopotamus, a practical and no-nonsense hippo, was always ready with advice, while Boris and Bertie Bulldog were a duo of tough but lovable bulldogs, with Bertie serving as a town's policeman. Wilfred Walrus, a wise and adventurous old walrus, often took the younger animals on fun expeditions. One of the best things about Edward and Friends was how each episode focused on simple but fun stories, often about friendship, teamwork, and learning from mistakes. In total, there were 28 episodes of Edward and Friends, each running for about 5 minutes. While some episodes were released on VHS, quite a few unfortunately remain lost now. An episode I remember was Edward Gets the Hiccups. In this episode, Edward watches Joe Crow perform tricks in a biplane and ends up with an uncontrollable case of the hiccups. Only a daredevil flight can cure them. In Lionel's Party, Lionel the Lion throws a big costume party and Edward's tree costume wins the prize. Sorry, spoiler alert there. Boris Gets a Scooter follows Boris Bulldog as he struggles to master his new scooter, leading to hilarious mishaps. In Edward and the Camera, Wilfred Walrus gives Edward an old camera, setting off a photography adventure around Fabuland. A day full of skating sees the town embrace winter with a skating competition. And Christmas in Fabuland is a festive episode where bad weather nearly ruins the town's Christmas celebrations. One of the coolest things about the show was how each episode ended with a short transition scene, often featuring Edward and his friends interacting in fun little moments before fading to black. In addition to the TV series, Edward and Friends also had a series of books. Now these books were adapted from the show's episodes, using stills from the animation. Some of the books included Lionel's Party, Edward and the Camera, Edward Gets the Hiccups, Wilfred's Treasure, Edward Joins the Band, Clive's Kite, Christmas in Fabuland, which combined the two holiday-themed episodes. There were also 2 VHS releases featuring a selection of episodes, but unfortunately not all episodes made it to home video. Some episodes, like Edward and the Big Balloon and The Clock Tower, remain rare and hard to find today. So, what happened to Edward and Friends? Well, despite its charm, the show never got a second season. It wrapped up in December 1987, and by 1989 the Fabuland toy line was discontinued. But in many ways, Edward and Friends was an important stepping stone for LEGO. It was their first animated project, paving the way for all the TV series and movies that were to follow. Today, LEGO animation is a massive industry, but it all started with a little claymation elephant and his friends. Although the show is rarely seen today, clips still surface online, and those who grew up with it remember it fondly. If you ever get the chance to watch an episode, it is delightful and a brilliant trip back to a simpler time. And that's it for today's deep dive into Edward and Friends. Do you remember watching this show? Did you have any Fabuland toys as a kid? Let me know, I'd love to hear your memories. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to Big Kids TV podcast for more nostalgic look at classic kids TV. And if you want to support the show, leave a review. It really helps other fans to find us. Until next time, keep being big kids at heart.
Big Kids TV podcast, bringing back the blast from the past. Remember